the interviewer first wants to congratulate you for landing the contract with EMI. I guess it's been 7 years since you got the band back together again, and this sort of is the cherry on top, if you will, after 7 years of activity.
This latest release is to EMI, but we aren't actually signed to EMI.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're not actually signed to EMI?
No, we're not actually signed to EMI, no.
Why is this particular release coming out from EMI?
Well, because they ended up, well, let's go back. In 1977,
mm-hmm.
We signed with United Artists,
mm-hmm.
and then by about 1981, the United Artists was part of EMI. So, but they had all the old tapes.
Mm-hmm.
So, our bass player, Tony, decided that he was interested in finding out whether or not there was any hidden material.
Uh-huh.
He went to EMI to sort out,
mm-hmm.
and the guy who was in charge of those special projects. He was originally our A&R guy at United Artists.
Uh-huh.
So he thought it would be a great idea to actually see what there was there and to release it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the project came about.
I see. Well, do you guys have a contract with any label right now?
No, not at the moment, no. You were in between, as they say.
In between contracts?
Yeah, because our last album came out in the rest of the world, besides Japan, because that went to Real Cool Records in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Although we were signed to IRS for the rest of the world,
mm-hmm.
and they went. They got absorbed by EMI again.
I see.
I mean, at the moment we're just writing the new material and doing demos to actually secure a new deal.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Now, tell me about how maybe you could explain in a little more detail about how this most recent album came about. I mean, who exactly, physically went searching through the tapes and came up with this stuff?
Well, the way that it went, it was our bass player, Tony Barber.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with us for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always been a big Buzzcocks fan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about a year and a half ago when the Beatles released their anthology.
Right.
And we were in the States recording the last album. And we, were talking, and he said, "Is there any stuff which is lying around, on the people's stairs, etc.?" I said, "Well, not as far as I know, because it was so long ago, and if it had been heard." So he got in touch with Tim Chaxfield, who was at EMI, and Tim got him a computer printout from the EMI vault saying all the things which they had. And then it was just a case of actually going into Abbey Road Studios and actually calling down the tapes and having them there and just seeing what condition they were in. But then some of them were actually starting to lose the coating.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to be sent off to be baked in an oven.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, I mean, if this stuff had remained in the vaults much longer, it would have been lost forever then?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a bit like they do with films, where you got to actually, you do a bit of restoration work,
mm-hmm.
in order to make sure it doesn't deteriorate any further.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I mean, I think it took him. I think he's been working on it for about 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Actually trying to track down things, and then going in and mixing things, and then and so really he's put together the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
He even interviewed me and Steve for the sleep notes.
Mm-hmm. So the thing that we can't quite figure out though is these tapes existed, Tony, but you had not really been aware of them, nor you yourself hadn't been aware of them, and Tony was the one that brought this up. But if he hadn't brought it up, you just would have forgotten about it forever.
Yes, I would. Yes, well, because I couldn't really see why anybody would want to listen to, but it's almost like seeing the rough sketches.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those days, like, demos were the only chance you had to hear the songs before you recorded them.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, there were lots of songs which were actually recorded, which didn't go through the demo process. So it was quite a luxury to go into the studio and just to record the songs, so that you could choose which ones to do or how to do them.
So once you had, once Tony had compiled this stuff and you gave a listen to it, did you have any qualms about actually releasing this stuff as product?
Well, I suppose it's for the same reason that Tony said, but that he didn't really want all that much involvement from me and Steve, because it'd be a different thing. I was listening to things and going, no, you can't put that out. And him seeing some interest, and actually choosing, what he thought was the most representative of what was going. So in some ways, the first time I heard it, I wasn't all that interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I can't see anybody wanting this.
Mm-hmm.
But then I listened to it a few more times, and each time the songs would come on with their own character.
Right.
So you could tell what was happening, because I'm so used to hearing the songs as they were recorded, and therefore I haven't actually gone back and listened to the demos. So actually hearing the demos is a bit of a strange thing, because it's not perfect. It's full of little errors, both forced and unforced. And so it's an odd thing to see. Look, it's almost like a scribbled down sketch, but in some ways it has a lot of. It still has a lot of energy and power in it, and it actually shows how the songs came about.
Yeah.
So they're starting to become interesting for me now.
Yeah. Well, it seems like what a lot of bands do these days is when they put out a greatest hits collection, they sort of tack 3 or 4 of these unreleased versions or unreleased numbers on to sort of sweeten the pot for the fan, if you will. In your case, though, you just released an entire collection of these sort of outtakes and unreleased tunes and whatnot.
Yeah, because this is something again from Tony, because Tony is a bit of a record collector, and therefore he's always been a bit disgruntled every time he has to go out and he buys a good, in order to get the rarities, you've got to buy the greatest hits,
which everybody already owns anyway.
Well, it's already owns, yeah. So he saw it as unnecessary duplication. So, but really his idea was, if you have them all on one disc, then people have the choice whether or not they want it or not. There's other greatest hits compilations. So
it was a bit of consideration for the completists out there.
Yes, well, he is, a card-carrying completist himself.
he was looking out for the interests of the completists there.
Yes.
The inner sleeve of the I was going to say record, but I guess the CD. It carries it bears the notes that you've written, which are quite detailed. But our interviewer would like to ask a few more questions about the individual tracks. The song 16 was apparently written after you had seen Star Wars, it says.
Well, no, that says it was it's a slight error, that. I mean, I can see how Tony actually transcribed the tape in that way. But it was recorded after we saw Star Wars, but it was written in April '77. Because it says about it being written in April '77, and then it said about Star Wars, where Star Wars didn't come out until.
Did your seeing Star Wars have anything to do with the way the track eventually sounded?
Well, it was just in the in the chaotic middle section. It was quite a fun thing doing, because we used to turn up the amplifiers so they would just feed back on their own. And the thing, you had to wear earphones so you wouldn't become deaf, because you had to really turn them up loud in order to get it. And we went this in the big studio at Olympic, but which is the one which the Rolling Stones did Sympathy for the Devil. So it's a huge, massive room, and it was just like turning up to it was squealing and making all these odd noises, and it was a bit like the futuristic sounds of the soundtrack of Star Wars.
Oh, I see. This woman was just wondering if you were particularly interested in Star Wars, or you had like a favorite character or something. But I guess it's more just coincidence that you happened to see it that particular day.
Yes, it was just before we went into the studio to record. So by the time we were coming up with these noises, that's where the Star Wars connection comes.
And then it says that song number 17, I Don't Know, was written after you saw Superman.
I don't know what to do in my life, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, yeah, but that was how I was on my way back home after seeing Superman.
And did your having seen Superman have anything to do with the writing of that song?
It may have done, but I think it's more unconscious. As far as I know, there's not any conscious reason for me doing that.
More of a contrast, you say?
No. I think it's an unconscious reason rather than any conscious one.
Oh, I see. Okay, not conscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and songs 1 through 3 were recorded, I guess, right after. Is this Garth the name?
Yes, Garth.
After Garth joined the band. Thinking back after he first joined, did you have much trouble putting the band, the sound together right after he joined?
Well, no, not really. It was quite simple in a way, because I mean, up until Garth joined him, it was just one guitar, bass and drums and vocals. But then Steve Diggle moved across from bass to playing guitar. So in some ways it gave a fuller sound, because when somebody went off to play a lead, then everything didn't drop out. So it was all something which we had in mind, and so it just added to the sound having an extra guitar there. And added more to that, wall of guitar sound.
Yeah. But I mean, you obviously sort of put these tapes off to the side after you made them. They didn't have anything to do with their quality, or they just happened to be demos that you had no more use for.
Yes, I mean that was the thing with demos. They were just like a quick recording, because I mean in those days there were no 4-track, home recording equipment, little portable studios and Fostex and things like that. I mean, they weren't around then. And even rehearsals and gigs, people didn't really tape all that much. So, I mean, to go in and do a demo of a song, it was just so that other people could say, oh, I like that one, or not so sure about that one, or what's that one called. And
Mm-hmm.
I think so. It was just to show the work in progress, really.
Right. And then songs 4 and 5. These are No Reply and Whatever Happened To. These, I guess, were recorded about 1 week after songs 1 through 3, and this was the first time that Martin Lachant, is it?
Yeah, Martin Rushent.
Martin Rushent, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is the first time you worked with Martin Rushent?
Yes, it would be. He was a producer who'd been called in to record the Stranglers, who were also signed to United Artists. Although really he was actually working as an A&R man, but he also wanted to be a producer. So he asked the head A&R guy if he could actually go in the studio with the Stranglers. So he went in with them, and then we came along and he said, "Oh, I'd like to go in the studio with them also." So seeing he's done a good job on the Stranglers, then Andrew Lauder, the head of A&R, said, "Okay then." And well, that was the start of the great relationship which we had.
Yeah, you I guess would continue to work with him after that. What factors led you to believe he was the man? He was the guy like a new partner.
He was easy to get on with. It was fun to be in the studio. He was always telling jokes. He was just like very relaxing and very productive. And also, he had a good set of ears. It sounded exciting, what you recorded.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the main reasons that you choose someday.
It's probably tough to narrow it down, but can you think of any things that he gave the band that other producers were not capable of?
Well, I don't know, because we never really tried anybody else. And the other person that we'd had producing was Martin Hannett. And even then, it was early days for him also. Yeah. So, it wasn't that we were quite used to going in the studio. We understood what the studio was, but as far as all the technical bits, well, Martin Rushent was an engineer. He used to, he actually engineered on the T-Rex's Electric Warrior album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is always a favourite of mine. And he used to engineer sessions for Shirley Bassey, and there's a whole load of people that he'd done.
Right.
And he'd even been on Top of the Pops himself.
Really?
Yeah, in this band, which he always tried to keep quiet about, but every now and again we'd find some reference. And
which band is that?
I forget what it was now, but he had this huge top hat made out of silver paper.
A huge top hat made out of silver paper?
Yeah.
You mean like Slade style?
Yeah, a bit like that.
So what is Martin doing now?
Well, I don't know. I found a couple of years ago. He was trying to get together a record label, but I don't know how he's managed to get over that. And also, he has. I think his brother lives out in on the Pacific coast of the United States. So, like near Seattle or Vancouver. And so I think he's up there a lot. I've heard reports of him producing bands up there.
Oh, really? Let's see. Okay. Song 6. Oh shit. I guess this is the version that Garth is on, which presumably means the eventual version was one he wasn't on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It was. Sorry?
I'm sorry. Yeah. The question was just why was this version discarded? Was it because he left the band afterwards, or was there some other reason for you not taking a liking to this particular version?
Well, as I said, it's just a demo version, so it was just so that people at the record company, because we were living in Manchester, and so if we had any ideas for songs, then it was hard for the record company in London to know what they were like, unless they had some recording of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was really just for that, just for your more internal use, just to see, whether or not, the song has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And it just so happened that Garth happened to leave the band before the actual version was cut in the studio?
Yes, we went in the studio, I think it was sometime October or November of '77, but to do but that version of, the version of All Shit which finally came out. So, I mean, in some ways, it's but these demos are like inter-office memos as well. You just to get the ideas going through, so people can start.
Yeah.
But like have an idea of what to expect. Although the good thing with working at United Artists was that they always were interested in releasing more material. Whereas nowadays you can spend 3 or 4 years getting an album project together. You before the record company think it's time to release it. Well, in those days, they'd say, "Do you want to do another single?" And you go in the studio, and well, I mean, in the case of when we did "Everybody's Happy" nowadays, I don't think that went through a demo at all, and it was basically being written, but you're right up to being in the studio. And new things are being added. So, as Martin Rushton always said, the only difference between a demo and a finished recording is what you actually call it. Because people won't be able to tell, really. If you don't give the game away.
Well, I guess that's why you were able to put together a whole album of these demos, because quality-wise, it's not appreciably inferior to what was eventually released, I guess.
Yeah. Well, 'cause I mean, there was. In some ways, we didn't spend a lot of time actually worrying about, sort of the details of the sound. I mean, I would do an album in about 3 weeks. So, I mean, it didn't really take us all that long, to do things. And so the demos, you do, so a couple of songs in I'd say about 3 songs a day. So, I mean, there's some ways you're going a little bit faster than you would for an album.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has some of that openness and, like the sweeping brush strokes, You can see.
What's preventing bands from doing that now?
Well, I think I think something went wrong during the '80s, and people got into this idea. Well, I think when people brought out the CD, I think the idea of the CD and its quality, and the studios all got geared up for reproducing this quality. And actually saw that you could hear the pin drop and you could hear the squeaky bass drum pedal, and therefore people would try and get rid of the squeaks and the extraneous noises, and they'd end up, there's almost like like we're trying to gild the lily, So they're going at it, and they're too anal, I think, was the word, where they're actually, but not really bothering about the impact of the music. But I mean, but trying to make it so that there's no flaws in it whatsoever.
In songs 7, 8, and 9, let me see, it's I Need, Fiction, Romance, and Autonomy.
Yeah.
It says I Need, I guess is the lyricless version.
Yes.
Which...
well, the first time we played I Need we did it live at a show just for Christmas of '77 at the Roundhouse in London. And we, and a few days later, we were in the studio doing a batch of demos, and that's when we did that version of I Need. So it was about another, well, a bit less than 2 weeks after that, but that we actually recorded the proper one, which went on the album. So I mean, it stayed lyricless until it was time to do the vocals, and then I had to scribble out something on the back of an envelope.
Was it something you were having trouble to come up with lyrics for?
No, not really. It was just a short time period to actually write the song and then to record it. I mean, I tend not to write too many lyrics until the last possible moment, so I can fit everything that's happened in.
Why do you wait until the last possible moment?
I think I'm very lazy. But also it helps get rid of all the things that it could be. I mean, I try not to be too clever in writing lyrics. I try and have them intelligent rather than intellectual, and also to be personal statements rather than some third party stance. So I tend to wait until I know what the song is about, really, and even then sometimes it's just half a glimpse of what it's about, because sometimes the words take on a different meaning as time goes on. So I'm sometimes amazed by what the songs actually mean.
But you have to incubate them for a period.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to like to live with the idea, not to commit too soon. Not to try and get the job over with. So I tend to leave it to the last minute. It's a bit like. Sometimes I'm there and I'm supposed to be in the studio the next day with the lyrics, and I still haven't got a clue what's happening. I'll be up all night trying to think of something. And then all of a sudden, as soon as you get the right idea, then everything falls into place. And then it's quite easy to do, and it's quite quick, and it's fun, and it's like really discovering rather than working hard.
Yeah. Like I guess you sort of ritualize the process of coming up with lyrics. Just sort of letting the idea stew for a while, and also allowing yourself to be subjected to sort of the rigors of a deadline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find that the deadline, actually, you concentrates your attention more. But then, if it could be any time. So, I mean, I like doing things when they're needed, rather than up front, years ahead.
And we move on to songs 10 through 14, which is what Just Last, ESP, Lipstick, and Promise. Also Mother of Tars? What is it?
Your Mother of Turds.
Mother of Turds, okay. Written here in Japanese, so I can't. Mother of Turds, okay. ESP, I guess starts out with somebody counting off the time, and there's some laughter and whatnot.
Yes, but it's always hard to agree when, even though it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's always hard to agree when the song actually starts.
But this, at the risk of making you once again explain for me, it's nothing but a demo version. Is that the only reason why this never made it out?
Yes. I mean, things were usually just the studio sessions were as we were doing an album, then it'd be using a new piece of tape, and we'd go, and we know what songs we wanted to do. Whereas with the demo, I mean, nobody knew until sometimes it wasn't until we got back in the control room and heard it that we'd actually understand what the song was about. So, but the demo those sessions were good for actually trying out new ideas and things. And sometimes, but sometimes when you're writing a song, you have ideas of other things which could be going on which you can't physically do yourself at the same time. So sometimes you have ideas with backing vocals or different guitar lines going on. And so it was all about doing the demos that you can actually get to a point where you can actually mould the song the way that you want it to be, or how your internal vision of the song is.
And on Mother of Turds, I guess there's also sort of a laughing part as well. So
yes, well that's John and Steve. It was one of those things. I mean, I can't actually remember if I was in the studio but that day. But it was one of those end of the session things they were playing about on the piano. Because that's one thing about recording studios is that there's always a piano, and the other thing is that nobody can ever play it.
And we go now to 15 through 20. You Don't Love Me. This is When Life Never Ends. What is it? Life Doesn't End? It's in Japanese. They have just the Japanese translation. I Don't Know, Run Away From Home, Drive System, and Jesus Made Me Feel Guilty. Four of these are, I guess, completely unreleased tunes. Why did they not make it onto the album originally?
It used to be that we'd do the demos, and then but there were songs which were crying out to be recorded, would actually get recorded, and then it would then be on to the next thing. And if we had another single coming out, then we would tend to actually write a new song, or there'd be always new songs happening, and so it was then, and so some of them like just slip, back down because there's not enough urgency in actually doing them. So I mean that's how those songs actually they slip through the net because there were other songs coming up.
I see. Are there many other songs like that sort of slip through the cracks like that?
Well, I didn't actually know there was as many as there is on chronology. I mean, as far as I know, there's none which I've done which you weren't finally recorded. Yeah, but the thing with the Steve Garvey songs, he was always very shy about his songs being on the record. So it was always a hard thing even to get him to do one. But and so when it came around to which song shall we do, he would never actively support his own songs. And in fact, if anything, he'd say no, I don't want to do that one.
Wow, that's very unusual.
Yeah. But I think it's that moody bass player type, vibe.
We move on to 21 and 22. Can't Help It and I Believe, which I guess were about 79, summer of 79, is this?
Yeah.
And I guess at this time, you start to get the feeling the band was on the verge of breaking apart, or were you still in relatively good terms at this time, or?
Yes. I mean, we carried on until 1981, so it's another
couple of years.
Yeah, another 18 months, I imagine, between. But those recordings. So yeah, I mean, things are still, things are still going well. I mean, I think in some ways we're getting used to actually being in a band by then.
I see. So, yeah, if anything, I guess, you had intended on going through with this over the long term.
Yeah.
I guess you wrote in the notes that you didn't like sort of the teeny bopper adulation you'd been receiving, or?
Well, it tended not to be as interesting as people think.
That wasn't the only thing that soured you, was it?
Well, no, life in general, I think, as well. No, it was just it was a bit of the pressures of being in a band. Also the amount of work which we actually did. Because even though it was only, we had 3 albums out in less than 2 years, along with I think 8 singles. So I mean that was quite a prolific time. So I mean it was getting into where we were starting to you feel the need to draw breath.
But it had nothing to do with your dissatisfaction with the band per se.
No, not really. I mean, it was still enjoyable.
Right.
And in fact, when it actually in 1981 when I left, it was only because I'd started doing some demos at Martin Rushton's studios, and the first one which we did was a demo of Homo Sapiens, and after working on it for about 18 hours, then Martin said, "But this is no longer a demo. This is now a finished track." And we kept doing some more demos, and they kept coming out as finished tracks, but not like Buzzcocks tracks. So that's when I left and I carried on that project solo.
Now the song "No Friend of Mine" was supposed to be on the 4th album.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think it's a great song. It's a shame it was never. We got around to be finished. I mean, when we're doing some rehearsals and writing some new songs at the moment, and every time I got a little spare moment, I'll start working at the chords and thinking about that song. But it was a bit of a dark horse with Steve Garvey. So,
what do you mean?
Well, there's a thing with Buzzcocks bass players is that they're always very good guitarists as well. And the other thing is that they always think that they're better than me and Steve, which is probably true. Which is probably true because we don't actually set ourselves as being musicians. We're more artists.
Now, when you went on to do a solo project that was sort of a kind of an electronic pop type thing, it says here.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that time? What sort of? I mean, you had just sort of dissolved the band, and you were striking out on your own. What did you have in mind?
It was just seeing where the songs were actually going, and by using the new technology of the synthesizers and sequencers. So in some ways it was more tinkering around and seeing what happened.
Yeah.
And also because I'd been working with Martin all through my recording career, it was a natural extension of that, really. And we were both interested in the same things.
Yeah. I guess the electronics also is a way of sort of freeing you from having to collaborate with other people and put up with their whims or schedules or whatever.
Yes, I mean, there was also that added advantage.
Yeah, so, but it's not something you're really stuck with, though.
How do you mean?
It's not an approach to working that you still use, right?
No, over the past few years I've been working exclusively with Buzzcocks.
Yeah. So obviously I guess you kind of got that experimentation out of your system, and return to what you feel you do best?
Yes. Well, I'm still seeing where this can end up.
What's that?
I said I'm still pursuing Buzzcocks to see where it will end up.
Yeah. What about getting back to the '80s? You, I guess, reassembled the band in '89.
Yes.
What exactly led you in that direction? I mean, did you sort of feel you hit a brick wall in terms of doing things on your own, or did you happen to just sort of run into the old the guys one day and think, well, maybe we should do it again?
Well, no, it's neither of those, but it was two unrelated incidents. There's one that EMI were releasing the box set product. And at the same time, people started showing interest in the States, where Buzzcocks came back together. So it was really to see what would happen if. So you ended up getting an offer from our old agent in the States, and so we knew it was a genuine offer of a tour. And it was at the same time when your product, and it was all for 3 weeks. That was, that was the beauty of it. It wasn't committing ourselves to much more. And so we just phoned round everyone and said, look, there's this offer of a tour and EMI releasing it. Do you fancy seeing what happens? So, I mean, much to everyone's surprise, everyone said yes.
And I guess in the case of the Buzzcocks, you guys had never really split on acrimonious terms to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, it was always things that were being in contact with each other occasionally,
Yeah.
But I mean, it was great when we first got back together. We were in the room for the first time in 8.5 years. All four of us. Because, I mean, like Steve Garvey had been living in America. I hadn't seen him for a long, long time. And so it was an exciting time, people, a little bit suspicious of what would happen. But as soon as we started playing, it all came back to us like riding bicycles.
Yeah. And it's, I guess that you have been reunited for longer than you were originally a band in the first place.
Yes, I mean, since '89. I mean, we've had a few lineup changes during that time, but all bands have lineup changes. So it isn't. But I mean, the lineup we got at the moment is almost 5 years old, which is.
So how is it that a band like the Buzzcocks lasts this long? What exactly is it? Chemistry or dedication on the part of the members? What keeps the band? What accounts for the band's longevity?
I don't know. I mean, I think we still have fun doing it, but we don't consider it to be a job. We don't take it that seriously. We don't. And because we enjoy making music, and we do it to make music rather than to make money. I mean, if you want to, if you become a musician to make money, then that's what you make. You're not really making the music.
Yeah.
And also everywhere we go, we enjoy ourselves, and people want us to come back and play again. So there's always something more. There's always like new challenges. And
yeah. And I guess there is sort of a core audience that never seems to tired of what you do. There's people always come out for more.
Yeah. And there's also surprisingly a lot of new people come along the concerts. So I mean that's encouraging as well. It's not just like we're seeing the graying of the audience.
I guess also you got kind of an added boost when people were comparing you a lot to Green Day a couple of years ago.
Yes. Well, sometimes it goes two ways. Sometimes people think that that we sound like Green Day.
You do a very convincing imitation of Green Day.
Yeah. The thing, why do they copy Green Day?
But what did you think of all that when Green Day hit it so so big?
Well, it was. Well, I mean, in some ways, it was about time. Because I mean, there's ever since '77, there's there's been that form of underground music. It was the first time it came overground, really, in a way which most of the record companies in the States would have thought impossible. But so it was something which came from actually people buying records rather than record companies, but trying to predict the trends. So it was about time since like that happened.
Yeah, that's right. And right on the heels of that came, of course, this sort of Britpop explosion. Did you feel any resentment to either of these developments?
No, not really. I mean, I think if it bears any similarity to things which I do or have done, then I think that's good. I mean, as I say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Okay, and you have been, I guess, working outside of the band as of late as well. There was something here about you being involved in the production of Can remixes.
Yes, no, I did a remix for an album which came out on Mute Records called Sacrilege, which was remixes of Can tracks. I mean, I actually chose the first track on the first album, and then I found out there were no tapes available for it, and I had to use the CD. So it was a bit of an odd remix, just remixing the final record.
And are you satisfied with the work you did?
Well, I mean, I mean, out of all the other people who are on that, I mean, it's a double album, and there's ranging from people like Brian Eno and a guy called Gerald. And there's lots of prestigious names on there. So I was a little bit, you worry about what the comparison would be.
Yeah.
But when I went to I was pleased to see on the sleeve notes that how my remix is one of the favourites of Can. When I went to the launch party, I was talking to Eamon Schmidt, the keyboard player, and he was saying how much he enjoyed the version which I did. So it was quite good. It was quite a bit of a surprise, really.
And there's also news that Tony he was on Ida's album. He's got a solo project called Airport.
Yes.
He was on the Denim single. I guess he's doing quite a bit of stuff outside the band. That's not going to have any adverse effects on Buzzcocks?
No, not really. I mean, it's I mean, it's always good to have a little bit of break away from things. A couple of months ago, our drummer Philip was in America with the Stratford Mercenaries.
Who?
The Stratford Mercenaries.
The Stratford Mercenaries.
Yeah, Stratford Mercenaries.
Stratford Mercenaries.
Yeah, which is a group of one of the one of the ex-members of Crass.
I see, and also says he had been collaborating with Emma of Lush.
It's been rumoured, but I don't think anything's actually happened with that yet.
I see. Okay, and lastly, the last question here is about the new album you guys had mentioned in the dressing room of the Kawasaki Club Cheetah, which I guess you performed at. Is that has that been worked on at all, or material written or demo?
Well, I mean, that's what we're doing at the moment. We've been we're going round to Steve's house where we got some equipment set up, and we've just been sitting around playing songs, really, and seeing which ones are going anywhere. So in some ways there'll probably be not too many demos for this next album because we're doing most of them live rather than just putting them down to tape.
Right. Are you still prolific, or do the songs still come easily?
Yes, I suppose so. I mean, it depends whether or not I take notice of them. It's almost like I'm having a radio station in my head, and but some nights, I'll just be lying in bed trying to get to sleep, and a tune will happen, so I'll just let it play me to sleep, really. And then hopefully I'll remember that. And then occasionally I go, oh no, that's really good, that. So, and then I have to get up and get out a guitar and just try and remember it a bit more. But so I tend to do most of the work inside my head. So it's there with me all the time, and I can change the pitch and the instrumentation. So it's,
Well, you seem to take it all very casually.
Well, it's something I've perfected over the years. I mean, to me, I couldn't imagine going into an office and working. I couldn't imagine what people do, But for me, writing songs is easy because I can do it all the time, really.
Right.
So it's quite simple in that way. It's hard to know when you really like something because sometimes you tune into what you're thinking about and you go, well, I don't really like that. So sometimes you can write lots of songs you don't like. It's trying to wait until you find the one which you do like and then hopefully remembering it.
So how many more years can we expect the Buzzcocks to be around? Is it
well, I don't know. It's always been. I've always been a bit wary of predicting because when you say, "Oh, yes, for years and years," then then it could be over within in weeks.
And I have to knock on wood a lot, I guess.
Yes, I suppose so. But that's one of the drawbacks of working with Steve Diggle.
And if you guys get this the new album put together, you're going to go back on the road again?
Yes. In some ways, in some ways, we're tour to record and we record to tour.
So you can't do one without the other.
Yeah. Well, it makes it more interesting, you see, because if we didn't put out any new material, then the next time we go around, we got nothing new to say. Even though we've got enough songs that we could do a different set, and each time we're going around and not play the same songs twice, so to speak. So we could do that for a while. But it's a fun thing to do because there's a party every night, and you're the guest of honour, and all your friends come, and there's food and drink.
And who's going to turn down a lifestyle like that?
Yeah.
Actually, there's one last thing. Are there any young bands or musicians that you sort of have your eye on right now?
There's a band who toured with us in the UK last year called Livingstone.
Called Livingston?
Yeah. And they were very, very good. I liked all the songs. And who else? I did see something, but I forgot who it is now. Oh yeah, it's a band called David Devant and his spirit wife.
David Devant and his spirit wife?
Yeah. Their band is albums out next week, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Another act that's often mentioned in comparison to you is Supergrass. What did you think of their second album?
Second album. It was excuse me a sec. Well, I liked the tracks which were singles, but I found a lot of it very meandering. I always thought that they're a bit like Pink Floyd in a way. So, it was okay, but not okay. I mean, I would have written it completely different.
Have they contacted you at all, just out of curiosity?
Well, we first saw them about 3 years ago. We were on tour and played 2 nights in Oxford. And there were these 2 odd-looking kids in the audience. And the second night, they came and were introduced to us. I think that made their day because they were big Buzzcocks fans. Although then the irony is that when we released All Set last year, there's one of the music papers over here said how a couple of the tracks on the album sounded like Supergrass.
I guess you can't get away from that, can you?
No.
do the younger musicians contact you much, or try to get in touch with you, or say that they were influenced by you, or do you find that
yes, I mean, that's one of the most embarrassing things about going out to a gig, is when everyone keeps coming up and saying, you know, oh, thank you for the music and everything, 'cause I feel a bit embarrassed.
And, well, I guess it's especially embarrassing when you don't know who it is who's thanking you. And you're supposed to know.
Yes, sometimes I find out that people who thank us, what was it? When we played in Seattle, but then somebody came, and it seems that Steve, well, a few years ago when we were in Seattle, somebody came and was chatting to Steve all night and buying him drinks. And it turns out that was Eddie Vedder. And Steve didn't know. It was, as far as Steve was concerned, this is just...
So some kid who just happened to come up and start buying...
Yeah.
I see. Well, that can be awkward. That can be very awkward. Okay, Pete, well, I think I've covered all the questions I'm supposed to.
Okay.
I want to thank you very much for your time, and certainly hope that we get a chance to see you on the next tour out here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be too long.
Yeah, well, once again, this was for Rocking On Magazine, and my name is Steve Harris.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Steve.
Yeah, we'll talk to you again.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.